Hello and welcome back to episode 2 of Redmews Maze of Death. We are still in the same session as episode 1, which means for better or for worse, Sparkmatic is still with us. At the end of the last episode, we had just started expanding the main bus to have both iron and copper on it. And the goal for this episode was to establish the main bus so that we could actually use the items on the main bus to make more items with which to build our factory. But before we do that, we need to add one more item to the bus, and that item is green circuits. So last episode I mentioned that there are giant assembly machines that can craft items at about 100 times the speed of a normal assembly machine. And today we're going to use the one that was given to us in the starting seed to actually make the green circuits. So we start this off by grabbing a bunch more equipment, specifically belts from our little belt crafter here. This is going to be a common theme this episode, building buildings that build buildings. I know that doesn't make sense, but trust me, it made a lot more sense in my head when I was thinking it up about 5 seconds ago. Now, whatever I was planning here doesn't actually matter because Sparkmatic has been left alone unsupervised for a little bit too long, and oh boy, he almost made a huge life mistake here using 4 inserters to go into a single chest. We literally have the loaders mod here, so correcting the error in his ways, I showed him the loader mod and allowed him to load up a machine, and then of course, before I know it, I literally walked away for 5 seconds and stuff is already flying through the air. We really need a hard hat sign over here. I mean, these are giant walls and they're just flinging through the air. But on the plus side, we have stone walls being made in a really spectacular fashion, but they're being made. Of course, Spark forgot to add coal to the line, and his solution was to just simply add it manually. But this is Factorio. We don't do that in Factorio. No. We automate it. Unless we're too lazy to automate it, and then in which case we don't automate it. Which would actually make us do more work because we have to, do the work of what the automation would do, which makes us less lazy. But of course, automation takes work, so if we didn't automate it, that means we're lazy for not automating it. But it doesn't matter, okay? The point is that we have stone automatically being smelted into stone bricks, and we have stone walls automatically being made, which means that we can now buff our defenses. Yay! Now instead of having 4 turrets with standard ammo in it, we now have 4 turrets with standard ammo and a wall. Look out, biters, here we come. Heading back into the center of the base, I take care of a quick rock. It's always good to keep your base nice and tidy. I keep the furnaces and the miners fed for the iron since we don't quite have them on the belt. The main bus yet, I should say, but it's happening soon. I'm sure it happens soon, probably. Back to the original problem of this episode, I'm heading back to the green circuit manufacturing and using a mod called Hell Mod to figure out just how many assembling machines I need to make this entire thing balance. And whoa, it gives me an order of 120 of the level 1 assemblers just to keep the big assembler running at full tilt. We don't quite have the resources to build those, nor the space, so I just go ahead and don't do that. After cleaning up a couple of trees near the furnace, stop the forest fires, I embark on the plan of action that I probably would have done if I didn't know about the numbers that Hellmod split out, which was just feed it with some assembly machines until I get a decent amount of circuits out of it. It's a pretty bulletproof plan. Not a lot can go wrong. And especially with the big assembly machine taking basically all it can get, you really can't overload it. I'm not going to have anywhere near 120 assembly machines over here. Pulling off of the main belt for copper is pretty simple. You just use a splitter and up to 4 if you really want to have all 4 lanes. I go for 4 assembly machines over here. Just I don't know why 4. I just put 4. That's what I put down. There's no balancing over here anymore. Ever since I realized it was 120 assembly machines, that kind of idea went right out the window. Give it a little power and we are good to go. And Spark's throwing gears off the line. See, this is what I mean by I can't leave him unsupervised. I don't even know what the plan was there. I feel like he just wanted to have stuff thrown through the air. I guess it's mesmerizing, but I hope he picks all those gears up. You know, I really do. Put an output line for the circuits, and I ran out of belts again. Pretty common theme. Of course, the belts don't have gears because, well, they're all on the ground, you know, next to the belt making machines instead of on the belt for the belt making machines. I decided my time is probably better well spent helping Spark do whatever it is he's doing. What is he doing exactly? Well, he's outsourcing the production of red science from his pockets to actual automation. And while I'm proud of him for doing this, he is also outsourcing his only job, so I'm not really sure how that's going to work out for him. It sort of reminds me of the software developer that worked for Verizon, who outsourced most of his job to a company in China. Verizon ended up firing him and just hiring the Chinese team. On an unrelated note, Spark is not in the next episode. Speaking of outsourcing, here I am again using HellMod to calculate how many gear makers I need per amount of science machines I want. I want 10 red science factories, and in order to support that, I just need 1 gear factory. So it's a useful little mod. If you don't really want to figure out the ratios for machines, I recommend giving it a try. Finally, turning my attention back to what I was originally doing, we've got green circuits on the belt now, which is going to be super useful for what we're putting in right next to the science machines. What we're putting there is going to end up being a mall for us to grab all of our buildings that we need to build the factory with. But as a nice little side effect of this, we now have splitters being automatically crafted. So with that, we have all 3 styles of yellow belts being made. We just got another small attack coming in, but they really don't seem to be that big at the moment. I'm actually quite surprised. The last playthrough that Spark and I did using Rampant along with Swarm Torio ended up being a complete onslaught. The wrong side. We were the ones getting slaughtered. It's possible that being within the maze map has given us a bigger advantage than I thought it would, but only time is going to tell in that regard. Quick single factory making yellow ammo to pull off of the main boss instead of the iron miners we have set up near the center of the main base. We don't really need that much ammo at the moment. What we could use is some redundancy in our power lines, because as I walk back to the base, this happens.
Whatever you just took apart, put it back.
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess I found the one power pole. That literally runs the entirety of the factory. It was right here. I love that. It's just like, oh, we don't need this. It has to be redundant. Nope. Like, everything runs through that.
So after that small distraction to upgrade the redundancy of our power grid, we're back to what we were doing before. What were we doing before? You know, I can never remember. I swear to God, this game is just one distraction after another sometimes. Oh yeah, green science. So the way I like to do green science is I like to do green science on the exact opposite side of the belt from the red science, so that they output onto the same belt as the red science, and we can just leave those right in front of the science labs. Well, never mind, scrap that. Spark put the science labs right where I was going to put the green science. After a small conversation about whether we should keep the science labs there or move them in favor of green science, we compromised and we kept the science labs there, and Spark put down even more. But he wasn't even satisfied there, because he set down 2 more rows of them. If I'm being honest, Spark doesn't know this yet, but those labs are moving first thing next session. Anyways, Spark and I were pretty tired at this point, so the only other things that happened this session were we upgraded the power just a little teeny bit, And then we also upgraded the copper wires that were going into the green circuit production. So at the end of this session, we didn't quite accomplish our goal of getting a mall up and running, but there's only really so much you can do when you're trying to play from midnight to 4 a.m. Your brain kind of gets all foggy and you don't really want to do anything else. You can see here I'm just kind of standing in place to place to place and moving about, and there's not a good thought process going on. Will we get this done next session? I don't know. Stay tuned to find out.